Well, guys, it's here. It's WrestleMania weekend, and I've got some stuff to talk about with this video. Most of my main reviews, like NXT TakeOver and Supercard of Honor, and obviously WrestleMania, those will come in one major video next week. But for right now, the two main things I'm going to be talking about are the Hall of Fame, which just finished up. I'm filming this like 20 minutes after it just wrapped up. And I want to do my classic match review, which, as I said, was going to be a WrestleMania build-up match, as voted by my followers on Twitter. Thank you very much. Excuse me, it's late at night, and I need coffee to stay awake to film this thing, which probably means I'm not going to get sleep tonight, but whatever. But yeah, the winner of that poll was Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper in the war to settle the score, so I will be reviewing that match. But before I get there, let's talk about the Hall of Fame first. 2017, that class went in. Overall, I mean, the Hall of Fame is one of the things I look forward to every year for WrestleMania. It's just such a nice event. It's just classy. And regardless of how you may feel about the WWE product at any given point, I mean, the Hall of Fame is typically very classy, very well done, and it's just paying respect to people that paved the way to make the art form better. And there are things to complain about, like certain people getting in when they shouldn't, and certain people that aren't in and should be in, and blah blah blah, all that other stuff. But for the most part, the Hall of Fame is a pretty classy thing. And I enjoyed this year's show once again. It was cool to see Kurt Angle prop comedy hour, where he basically really relived like every old skit that he ever did with all the props and everything. The milk jugs in particular were pretty funny. You know, the Warrior Award bit, very classy, very nice story. I like that he mentioned Christopher Reeve, because obviously there are a lot of parallels there. I have a book recommendation for you. Read Christopher Reeve's book, Still Me. It's actually I had to read it in college as part of a report that we were doing, and I thought it was a very good book. Anyway, trying to think of some of the other ones. Teddy Long was hilarious. That guy is just... He's basically a walking meme for pro wrestling, but goddamn, he's so funny and so entertaining. It was nice to see him have that moment. Beth Phoenix, you know, I said that of all the people in the Hall of Fame, she was the one that I felt kind of like... I don't want to be harsh and say doesn't belong there. It's not her fault that I feel that way. It has nothing to do with her. I just felt like as a talent, she had a ton of it, very unique look, should have been the second coming of Chyna, which I was very glad that she mentioned Chyna. I was like, ooh, she managed to sneak that one in there. Okay, cool, because, and some people were making fun of Beth's speech, saying that she was, like, thanking everybody under the sun. It's like, look, she wanted to thank some people. It's fine. I don't really have a problem with it. And that Molly Holly story, Nora Greenwald, that was pretty incredible. I'm like, wow, Nora, that woman's a saint. That's pretty amazing. But anyway, Beth Phoenix to me is somebody who should have had a Hall of Fame career and didn't, because she existed at a time when the Divas division was treated with, and let's be honest, it was treated like it was filler. And she was the best part of an era filled with Kelly Kellys and other supermodels that were just hired based on their looks. And, you know, that's just how it is. So, me saying that Beth doesn't really belong in the Hall of Fame, it has nothing to do with her. It's just the way they promoted her and presented her never gave her the Hall of Fame career that she should have had. So, I don't really begrudge her going in. It's like, yeah, she should be here, but she should have been given the material to get to this point. And it's like, fine, whatever. Tony Chimmel's announcing edge was pretty funny. Tony Chimmel, the dude has one bit, but goddamn, he milks it for all it's worth. What else? They opened up with Bischoff and DDP, which to me, if I have like one knock on the show, it was that, to me, that was kind of the peak. I was like, whoa, they're doing Paige first? Okay, because Paige was the one I was most excited to see. I am a huge Diamond Dallas Page fan. And honestly, I thought he had the best speech on the show. Very heartfelt, very genuine, thanked a lot of people, you know. And I didn't realize that Paige had learned from so many people. I'd heard about Dusty, I'd heard about Randy wanting to put him over. at Spring Stampede and all of that, but I didn't know about, say, the Thanksgiving phone call or all the other people that Paige thanked to get him to that point, and various other things. I was like, man, a lot of people took DDP under their wing, and it paid off, because Paige was a guy that, as they said, should not have been a success, and he was, through hard work, dedication, and just being very good at his craft. Again, I say it all the time. You know, Ricky Steamboat, when he inducted Rick Rude, talked about in-ring psychology. I felt like DDP was one of the best in-ring psychologists of his era, certainly of the Monday Night Wars period. And he doesn't always get the credit for that. And I've talked about how at times I felt like that I had to be one of the ones that stood up for WCW and those guys, because they didn't always get the respect that they deserved. And so it's nice to see, you know, Sting go in. It's nice to see Paige go in. It's nice to see, like, these guys are finally getting their just dues. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, that's, you know, great. And DDP had his night in the sun tonight, and it was great, and I loved it. And I thought he had the best speech. Bischoff's induction speech was also fantastic. Really good. Who else? Let's see, now I'm going through the whole list. I thought the Rock and Roll Express, not the Midnight Express. For some reason, I keep getting them, like, crossed in my brain. I think I've made that mistake in a couple videos, maybe a couple tweets too, but no. The Rock and Roll Express, not the Midnight Express. I thought their speech was very good. They really did come across like they were brothers. Cornette's induction speech, which it was surreal seeing Jim Cornette on WWE program again. And that's one of the other fun things about the Hall of Fame, is that it kind of mends those bridges that were damaged. You know, Bruno came back that way. Ultimate Warrior came back that way. Randy Savage finally got in. You know, unfortunately, it was after his death, but you know, it is a nice way to just celebrate the art form of wrestling, and that's one of the things that I admire about the Hall of Fame. But yeah, getting back on track, I really like the Rock and Roll Express's speech. Am I missing anybody? Oh, Rick Rude. Oh, God. The other one I was super excited about. Yeah, Rick Rude, I thought his son did really well and, you know, referenced his bits, cut the music, and did all that. And of course, everybody's commenting. It's like, all right, look, the guy is huge. I mean, tall, very tall guy, and he can talk. So it's like, you know, Vince and Hunter are, like, backstage, like, drawing up the developmental contract for him right now. But overall, you know, I thought he carried himself very well. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I love my coffee. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the Hall of Fame. Oh, one other thing I do want to say. I thought it was cool that DDP did mention Kimberly, who was a big part of his career. I thought it was very cool that he mentioned her. Also, he brought out his daughters, who are very cute, by the way. And, of course, I would never date any of them, because it's like, no, I'd have to go up to Diamond Dallas Page and ask for his daughter's hand or whatever. I don't, if Paige cares about that kind of thing, I don't know. But it's like, I don't know if I want to go through Paige to date somebody. That's, anyway, yeah, overall I thought the Hall of Fame was very good. It was very well done. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's just nice. It's just something that's really, really nice. And I like nice. Nice is good. Nice is a good thing. So, yeah, Hall of Fame, it's one of my favorite parts of WrestleMania weekend, and this year was no exception, especially since, for me personally, to see Diamond Dallas Page go in and to see Rick Rude go in, that was the big selling point for me. For a lot of people, that was Kurt Angle, and it was surreal to see Kurt again. And obviously, he was going to be the big one, and closing with him was a good idea. I'm not so sure about John Cena inducting him. I thought that's a strange call, but, well, maybe not, because Kurt was his first opponent, so Kurt Angle kind of was, like, the one that jump-started his career. It's like, God damn it, it's your fault, Kurt. But, anyway, yeah, everything came off, you know, it's just, like I said, it's just a nice event. Some people are going to criticize certain aspects of it, and that's always going to be a thing, but overall, for me, it's just a way to celebrate the art form of professional wrestling and to thank those that helped pave the way. So, very enjoyable show, very nice, and I enjoyed it. It's really all there is to it. Now let's get to my classic match review. As I said, I'm going to be reviewing Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship from the War to Settle the Score, an MTV WWF cross-branded special. A WWF special that aired on MTV. Not their first one. I believe the first one was the Brawl to End It All. Not the Brawl for All tournament from '98, but a different thing entirely. And this was the second MTV special centered around the Hogan-Piper title match. It is very interesting, this match, because it really was the genesis of WrestleMania. And that's one of the reasons I put it in the poll, because when I was thinking, like, okay, WrestleMania build-up matches, because back in the day, before the Royal Rumble really was kind of the kickoff point for WrestleMania season, you would have matches that would kind of be the jump starter to really kick the Mania build into high gear. Mega Powers versus Twin Towers was what initiated the Mega Powers split. I mean, and even though they'd been teasing it leading up to that point, that was the match that really kicked it off and really got the ball rolling on the Mega Powers exploding for WrestleMania 5. I also mentioned Hogan and Andre in the main event. Hogan-Andre 2, the match that set up the championship tournament at WrestleMania 4. So you used to have those kind of big highlight main event matches that were sold on really big TV specials that would ultimately shape WrestleMania in a way. And nowadays, it's like I said, the Royal Rumble has kind of become the new kickoff point for WrestleMania season. So you don't see that as much anymore. Although this year, you could say like the 4-way Universal title match was kind of the starting point for Seth versus Triple H and Owens versus Jericho in a way. So there is some of that going on. But anyway, let's just get into Piper and Hogan. If this were happening today, if this feud were taking place today, it would be the WrestleMania match. Like, Piper would win the Rumble and build up all his heat, and it would be Hogan versus Piper at WrestleMania. That's how it would go, and that's how we're conditioned to think now because of the format that WWE eventually evolved into. But back then, I think their main goal was just to get eyeballs on the product, just get as many eyeballs on the product as possible. So the relationship with MTV was a big way to do that. There were a lot of celebrities being featured on this special alone. Joe Piscopo was there. Bob Costas was the ring announcer. There were a few others. I think Danny DeVito was there too. But yeah, they just wanted to garner as much attention as possible, and MTV was the right way to go because in the 80s, that was when MTV was kind of like really, really hot and really like, taking over. And it was perfect for the WWF to be associated with them. Cyndi Lauper was in Hogan's corner for this match. She had a feud with Piper. Albano was also in Hogan's corner. And, there was a lot of glitz and glamour associated with this championship match. And this was a big feud. You had Hulk Hogan, who was the big babyface All-American hero, and was pretty much cemented as the top guy at this point, going up against the ultimate villain in Roddy Piper. It's really weird watching Piper back then because we think of him as this big babyface character and one of the all-time greats. So to see him working in the 80s and getting booed out of the building is really kind of remarkable. And it shows how good Piper really was as far as like capturing the audience's attention and getting what he wanted out of the audience. Because he could be the best babyface in the world and he could be the best heel in the world, depending on whatever he had to do and for whatever story he was telling. I mean, Piper was really great at that, and he was a great heel, and he was kind of like a perfect match for Hogan. As far as being a character goes, he was just the perfect smarmy asshole jerk heel. So he was just a perfect counterbalance to Hogan, and the match itself was pretty basic. There was no finish. It ended on a disqualification. Well, I say there's no finish. It ended on a disqualification with Paul Orndorff causing outside interference, which ultimately led to Hogan getting the DQ win. But really, this match wasn't so much about... like I said, this was meant to kick off WrestleMania, so it wasn't about being a blow-off to the Hogan-Piper feud. It was meant to set up the tag match at WrestleMania 1. So that was the ultimate goal of this match, and I felt like they accomplished that with the post-match stuff, with Orndorff jumping in, causing the DQ, and ultimately Mr. T, who was sitting at ringside, jumping in at Hogan's defense. And something I thought was very interesting is that Piper and Orndorff actually beat down Mr. T. That's interesting to me because whenever, and you watch it nowadays, whenever they do a celebrity guest appearance on WWE programming, the celebrity always gets over on the wrestler, like almost always, and never takes any like significant offense. You know, I watched Michael Strahan hip toss somebody. Was it Titus O'Neil? I think it was. And didn't take anything in return. You know, during the guest host era, it felt like every guest host had to like humiliate the heels. Very rarely, not never. I think it was didn't that the Hangover guy, forget his name. I mean, I hate to call him the Asian guy from the Hangover, but didn't he take an AA from Cena or something? And Jeremy Piven didn't. I believe I remember them getting AA'd by Cena. But for the most part, the celebrities don't really take the beatdowns. They normally dish out the beatdowns, which to me is just counterproductive. So here it was really interesting to see Piper and Orndorff actually beat Mr. T down, which makes sense because Mr. T is in their world, their realm, and they would dominate him in their own setting. And yeah, it was really interesting, but it set the stage for the tag match at WrestleMania 1, and I thought it did that beautifully. And again, just to show difference between how things are now and how things were done back then, this is something that would have been done on Raw, like the whole beatdown segment and ultimately setting up the big match at WrestleMania. That's something that you would have seen on Raw. Here, this was a big televised special with a championship match that felt like a big deal because championship matches did not happen all the time on TV, and especially when it's Hogan and Piper who were the two big rivals. So they used a huge match to, again, bring all those eyeballs in, and then use it to set up WrestleMania down the road, just a few weeks later, and bring even more eyeballs to the product with some of the celebrities that they had on there. Mr. T, Muhammad Ali, Billy Martin, Liberace, yada, 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 all of that. So, a lot of glitz and glamour with this, a lot of excitement surrounding it. The crowd, the MSG crowd was just buzzing throughout the entire match. And, because this match did feel like a big deal back then, because you didn't get title matches all the time on TV. So, again, it's part of that, like, less is more mentality, and that's how you really make things feel special. The match itself is not, like, anything to really write home about. It's very basic. Very, very basic. It's the stuff surrounding it that made it special, namely the post-match stuff, and with Mr. T and Paul Orndorff, and ultimately setting up that big tag match at WrestleMania 1. So, as a match being used to set up the main event of the very first WrestleMania, I thought this match did its job admirably. I think it did everything it needed to do to bring eyeballs to the product, garner that interest, and ultimately build to the bigger show in a few weeks later. So, those are my feelings on Piper Hogan, the war to settle the score. So, that's my classic match review. That's all I have for you now. Next week, I'll be doing my top 10 matches for March 2017, as well as my reviews of WrestleMania, NXT TakeOver, and Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. But, until then, you all enjoy WrestleMania weekend. It's a big weekend for us wrestling fans, so we're just going to enjoy the whole ride, while we're here. And until next week, y'all have a good one.